Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Aesthetic and Wellness Edge. I'm your host, Bethany Gifford, and after more than a decade working along surgeons, medical spas, and wellness leaders, I launched New Era Intel, a growth consultancy that helps practices uncover opportunities, scale smarter, and prepare for long-term success. Today's guest has built a career that spans bedside nursing, surgery centers, and now one of the most innovative solutions reshaping financial security in the aesthetics and beyond. This conversation is going to give you a brand new perspective on protecting both patients and practices. But first, a word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by New Era Intel. At New Era Intel, we help medical spas, dermatology clinics, and plastic surgery practices who are struggling with inconsistent patient retention, underutilized CRM systems, and manual systems that hold back your clinic's growth potential so they can finally increase quality repeat bookings, streamline operations with AI automation, and grow predictable monthly revenue with the right systems and strategy. They're able to create a premium, seamless patient experience while freeing up their team to focus on what they do best. If you would like to take your business to the next level, head over to neweraintel.com to get started.
Today, I am thrilled to welcome Suzanne Baeke, Vice President of Business Development and Sales at BlisCare. With more than 33 years in nursing, Suzanne brings a unique combination of clinical experience, business leadership, and a personal passion for wellness. Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely. You've had such a wide range career starting in plastic surgery nursing, building a surgical center, and then, later overseeing some emergency services. What kind of drew you into the business development and leadership roles?
So the leadership roles for me came from, if you want to make the difference, then you need to be able to make the decisions to make the difference. So I stepped into the leadership roles and um, pursued being able to make that change in
Absolutely.
the companies I work for and the environment that I'm working in.
Awesome. Yeah, you were a nurse for 33 years, and now you're VP.
Yes.
What was kind of the
Yeah.
turning point along that kind of moved you into this industry?
So going from nursing, every aspect of nursing, like you said, starting out in ICU, doing everything from ICU to ER, and then in administration, home care, plastic surgery, so physician office based. There are so many aspects to to health insurance and the cosmetic surgery world, where aesthetics, where it's all cash pay. So getting into the cash pay world, it was surprising to me how, oh, it's disposable income that their patients are giving you. It is not something that, oh, you go to the emergency room for your issue that you have, or you go to the doctor's office and it's your health insurance card that you're giving them. No, you're giving them your money. So then it is, if there's a complication, they're not prepared for it.
Mhm.
So when this innovation came about, and it's BlisCare is the name of the program, it was so exciting for me to be able to share that with the surgeons, the patients, and know that I am bringing them something that will protect both sides. It is protecting the surgeon and their profit, and it's protecting the patient's investment so that they don't feel like they're just constantly being, because things happen in surgery. You know that, Bethany. It's like anything can happen in
It
aesthetics.
does. You just never
And it,
know.
and it and it doesn't mean the doctor did anything wrong. It doesn't mean the patient did anything wrong. There are just those statistics that it happens. So that the patients also don't lose track of, I need to get better. The doctor wants me to help me get better, and I have the money to do it now.
Yeah. I know everybody expects the risk to fall directly onto the surgeon, but sometimes,
Yes,
it's costly for the patient as well. So I know when I first
exactly.
looked into the BlisCare, I was just fascinated by the kind of model that you guys do. And we had talked and you had said something about downside risk protection and why it's
Yes,
become so critical for like cash pay procedures, especially in aesthetics and surgery. Could you kind of touch on that?
absolutely. So just the term downside risk is when there's a complication, that's the downside. So it's the risk in that procedure, and there's no one protecting that downside risk for the surgeon. They put their surgery out there, it costs X number of dollars, and they have a profit margin like all businessmen do, and women, they have their profit margin in there. And then the patients, they kind of have their margins in there too, right? Like, this is what I can afford. And so the downside risk is actually on both sides, but it's truly so that you can keep the margin that you put in there and you're protecting your profit margin. That's what downside risk protection is.
Awesome. Well, from your perspective, what's
Mhm.
kind of the biggest financial challenge that most practices face when complications occur? And how does BlisCare kind of step in to
Mm.
relieve that pressure?
That's a perfect question. So, the biggest obstacle for a surgeon is, let's just use breast augmentation for an example, because it's easier to talk about it when you put an example with it. You have all of your costs and your overhead into the cost of the doing the breast augmentation, and you tell the patient it's going to cost you $8,000, and you're going to get your breast augmentation, and you think as a patient that's all there is. Well, the doctor has not put inside that the, oh, well, what if one of the normal complications that can happen, it's not an unknown complication. And we talk about it in the consult, and we talk about that it can happen and there's going to be costs associated with it for the patient. But if that hematoma happens, so when you get bleeding around the implant after surgery, it can be caused by several different things. But then who's going to pay for that complication, the cost to fix that complication? If the doctor just pays for it, the profit margin he just had in the original surgery is basically gone.
Yeah.
And if he asks the patient for it, eh, typically they will say, okay, this is going to cost X to whoever brought them into the office or into the surgery center. But what happens is they get mad. Well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Well, it wasn't really the surgeon's fault either. But it's many times the surgeon will take the route that is the least stressful, least confrontational, fix the patient, and the patients won't see a bill, and the surgeon is, they're happy that they took care of their patient, they did what was right, but doing free surgery isn't what's going to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. I worked in
So,
a surgical center for a while too, and we
yeah.
did the same thing. So I remember that a lot.
And so when the surgeon realizes that you can get protection on the procedures, so for example, the breast augmentation, you can get for you can get a $15,000 benefit limit, which will cover a lot of complications that could happen because they're only reimbursed at cost, and have that protection last for even up to a year. You're only looking at about $400 to add into the cost of that breast augmentation. And so what I encourage the surgeons to do is, because they're the policy holder, it's not the patient. So the surgeon adds that $400 estimate, because I don't have the exact number in front of me right now, but they add it into the cost of the surgery, and I would pay 8,400 knowing I didn't have to worry about a complication cost after as a patient. Um, And so it's true peace of mind. And honestly, the way healthcare is going, Bethany, it's amazing how many specialties, orthopedics, bariatrics, um, women's health is all a lot of it's cash pay, or it's going in that direction. There's not as many self-insured employers that are sticking to a commercial plan because it's so expensive and just keeps going higher and higher. And so we wrap our risk around it and protect their investment.
That's amazing. Kinda seems like a no-brainer for
I
sure.
exactly. Exactly.
I
Exactly.
mean, $400 to cover an entire surgery of just in case because you've gotta cover what ifs. I mean, things happen. So,
Exactly.
I mean, give
Exactly.
us a little bit of insight. We kind of seen where you've come from, what you're doing, but how does BlisCare kinda stand apart from a traditional insurance, compared to some of the other products out there?
So traditional insurance, commercial insurance from Blue Cross, Cigna, Aetna, exactly, it is you pay a premium and not everything is actually covered. So cosmetic surgery is not covered. In some cases, breast reconstruction is not covered. Or you go and your doctor says you need to have a CT scan for a particular abdominal pain issue or to rule out something just in regular medicine, right? But that's not covered. So your deductibles are also so high in traditional healthcare, in medical insurance, that you pay for all this care and insurance isn't paying anything because you've got this deductible of whether it's 5,000, 8,000, or 10,000, and then it's like, "Oh, it's not just my deductible, it's also the whole family," right? Before then it kicks in even more. So what BlisCare does is they will wrap around the procedure or, that the doctor says you need. There are direct primary care opportunities out there that a patient, you probably heard of concierge primary
Yeah.
care, right?
Yes.
So they pay an annual amount or a monthly amount, and they don't have to worry then about some labs and x-rays and things. It's just all included, right? There's no deductibles. It's just all included. Same thing when concept wise with BlisCare and going to surgery, because we really only wrap around surgery. Um, But it's that same concept where I've paid for my full year of direct primary care, and I'm not getting in all of these other expenses that are just added on. I'm actually getting something for my, if you wanna call it a premium that you paid for that annual amount, right? And BlisCare is not an actual health insurance because there's 2 sides to the insurance world, and maybe it would help to explain that part. In the insurance world, there's the life and health side of insurance, and then there's a property casualty side. On the life and health side, that's where you find your traditional medical insurance for everyday health care, and then life insurance. On the other side, on property casualty, that's where you find home insurance, auto insurance, medical malpractice insurance, business insurance, and then there's a specialty line called surplus or excess lines. And with that line, it is where you can put those lines of insurance business that don't quite fit the mold. So
Mm.
that's where BlisCare lives. We are a specialty program and we're on that property casualty side, which means no one's allowed to make a profit off of our insurance. So when we cover a complication, the surgeon's not making an additional profit. Just like when your car gets totaled, you're not making a profit off of that, right? Or when you have a claim that way. So I hope that kind of explains it even better because we're not in it to give people profit. It's to protect their original profit.
And you were saying it's per surgery, so they don't have to pay
No.
this gigantic annual premium. It's just per surgery, right?
Exactly. So, and that helps budgeting for all the surgeons or employers because they can be a policyholder for um, their staff, their members. So if a surgeon, so like medical malpractice insurance, it is an annual premium and it's so expensive that literally the surgeons have to take out a loan and pay their premium for the whole year. And then it starts over again. And with BlisCare, you don't have to do that. If you are seeing, let's say you have 10 surgeries in a month, 25 surgeries in a month, then you're paying for each individual surgery because it's included into the bundled price that you just gave the patient. You pay us when the surgeries happen. And let's say you went on vacation because you're just doing really well and you took the whole month off. There were no surgeries. Well, you're not paying me a premium if you're not doing surgery. So it is the best of both worlds. The protection for the surgeon, the patient, financially on both sides.
I love it. I love this model. Um, I just, I, to me, it's a no-brainer for sure. And we work with plastic surgeons as well, and we're going to have a lot of them watching this episode. And I'm just curious, what has been kind of the reaction of the surgeons and the patients, once they kind of understand like what you're offering?
I love that question because the surgeon is, believe it or not, it seems crazy to me only because being a nurse so long and complications happen. But I have had surgeons tell me, well, Suzanne, I don't have complications. I'm like, that's
Not
awesome.
yet.
Maybe, exactly. maybe, maybe, I don't know how long you've been in practice, but 2 weeks, maybe, I don't know. But it's, then you get those that they see why it's important. Um, but they're like, it just doesn't happen that often. And then they just, it is a cash pay world and they're fighting for every surgery. So Susie Q will come in for a consult and then she'll go down the street for a consult and it's like they're cheaper. And I caution them to not decrease their price and make themselves more of a commodity, like decreasing your price all the time. Stand on your quality of surgery and tell them if you have a complication down the street, are they going to cover any costs of your if there's a complication? Because it can happen. But having surgery here, we really believe in quality. We believe in taking care of the patients, and um, we will always stand behind you, and it's not going to cost you additional monies. So going down the street and maybe getting it for $1,000 less or $500 less isn't always the best option. Um, I have other surgeons that they went ahead and put it in. They weren't putting it on everything. They were only putting it on certain procedures, the ones that they felt like were the highest risk, because we don't mandate that they put it on everything. I would, but they don't, that's their choice. And what happens is they will put it on one and nothing happens. They're putting it on the high risk, but then just the simple plain Jane BAM is what they call it. BAM stands for bilateral augmentation mammoplasty. So when you're in the industry, a BAM is a primary breast aug. So when that one happens, you think, wow, she's in her 20s, she's healthy, nothing's going to happen. Not so
You
much.
just never
What
know.
ends up, but it's right. If you could predict who's going to get a complication, then I want to go to Las Vegas with you, and I
I
want
know,
you to
right?
predict a lot of things for me. So when that breast augmentation comes back and calls the doctor and says, My right breast is twice the size of my left breast. And the surgeon's like, "Oh, no." Breast augmentation has a hematoma, and you need to come in. We need to evacuate or remove the blood, and that'll be about $1,500 to $2,000, depending on where you are in the country and what costs are, right? So then they realize, I really just need to put it on. A lot of them will realize, I just need to put this on everything. Um,
Absolutely, especially when they're just adding it into the cost, like, just do it.
exactly,
I mean, that
exactly.
protects
Well,
you and the patient. It's just
exactly. And one of them, what it was great because I had a surgeon said, "Well, I guess I don't really know what all costs I'm really covering in my surgery." And I said, that doesn't surprise me." I said, "Truly, what every surgery you should have it broken down somewhere with your office manager, your rent for your office, your staff, your what is the amount that it takes to run that office every month, break it down then by the day, and then divide it again by the hour. And then if that breast augmentation takes you an hour and a half from pre-op through surgery and post, you know exactly what your overhead is. Add your BlisCare in there, and for me, that seems the best way to come up with, so you're truly covering all your costs. And then BlisCare doesn't seem like that much money,
yeah, I know. I love that. I am a firm believer in, insurance and care and coverage of everything. Because 'cause
right?
you're right, it's just that one moment. Just don't think, or you let something lapse, and then you just happen to get in a car accident and you didn't renew, or just it's just so
Exactly.
important to be covered, especially when it
It is.
comes to the body. Because 'cause you're right, you don't know. You just don't know.
You don't. Yep.
Well, industry insight.
Uh-huh.
You said you spent a lot of time at, like, conferences and in
Yes.
practices. What kinda insights have you gained about building, like, real strong, surgeon relationships and kinda overcoming those barriers, especially, like, the front desk, or, like, a patient education level?
That is so true. The You want to get to the surgeons, and they did a great job hiring that receptionist. She is the best gatekeeper ever. And and you try, and then you think, okay, so then you call and you ask for the patient coordinator, or you ask to talk to the office manager, and that's really tough because to explain what we do and hope that that hourly employee is going to appreciate it enough that it truly impacts them as well, that all of those complications and those patient coordinators, they are the ones typically that have to go back to the patient and say, well, the complication that you had that required you to go back to surgery, I need to collect, let's say, $1,500. That puts them in a really hard place, right? And when the patient coordinator realizes what we actually do, many of them are strong advocates to get it put into the practice. And the office managers, when they truly understand what we do, realize, they may get a profit share at their level. And if they can keep that practice more profitable, then it helps them too.
Yep,
So, and job security, right? Like, keep the practice going these days. Bariatric surgeons are um, truly feeling that with the GLP-1s, and they are not doing as much surgery. So every dime they can keep in their practice and keeping it, not spending it on a complication or to help a patient or just anything to smooth over, has truly been a benefit for them as well.
that's really cool.
Um, the I would say as far as insights also, I would encourage every surgeon when they go to their conferences and those exhibitors have spent money to get a booth, be there, um, stop and talk to them because they're there to talk to you. You may not think about it that way as a surgeon going to the conference but and I'm not saying they have to talk to every one of them, but if you see something new, stop and talk to them. Or if an exhibitor comes and says something to you, I would say just think about, just saying, okay, well, I will listen to give me your elevator pitch. Like just give them that opportunity, right? I would say that would be insights of how to get to them. Sometimes you have to go around to office managers and stuff um but it's not easy breaking through.
I bet. I know. It's funny that you call them gatekeepers. One of my friends said that the other day. I was like, "You mean the receptionist?" And he was like, "Yeah, gatekeeper." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, actually, that tracks.
Yeah.
Nothing
Yes,
gets through them."
that's right. Because that receptionist, the one who answers the phone, almost should be the highest paid person in that practice other than the surgeon. But because they protect the surgeon's time, they convert phone calls to appointments. They I Having a truly talented receptionist, um, is worth the money,
Absolutely. We work with med spas, derms, plastics, wellness clinics,
right?
and our first go-to is an audit. What are you guys doing in the underbelly of everything? And the first thing we look at is that first point of contact.
That's
Are
right.
are they helping or are they hurting? How are they with sales?
Mhm,
How are they with converting? And because it is,
mhm.
they're the first person on the phone, they're the first person that someone comes and walks in and talks to. I mean, they can make or break an entire practice. So they should be the highest paid.
Yes, yes, and it's not just the, um, esthetician or the nurses or the patient coordinators that need to know all about the surgeries and all about the skincare lines that you have there. Don't forget to include your receptionist because they're gonna make those sales on the phone and convert it to come see you. Um, People will call up just a cold call and see if they wanna come there, and then they'll start asking questions. And granted, they don't have time to really be on the phone, like, several minutes converting someone, but, a really good receptionist can get it done in 3 or 4 minutes.
Well, where do you see this risk protection and kind of bundle care heading in the next couple years, especially for BlisCare?
Well, we are in now, I mentioned self-insured employers earlier, and basically, I mean, doctors are self-insured employers, right? But self-insured employers like Walmart or Tyson Chicken or, these big ones that they really don't do the big commercial payers. They're self-funded. They might use one of those to use their network or like that. But they've stopped going to those commercial payers is what I'll call them, and actually started going towards what in the industry is called bundlers. So you've probably heard of some of them out there. Some of the doctors that are listening to it probably have heard of Carum or Luminary or Transcarent or um, several others. And what they're doing is putting surgery bundles together. So facility anesthesia, the devices, and the professional fees all in one, and making it a cash price that then has risk protection wrapped around it so that those self insured employers are looking at it and going, so if there's a complication, you're not going to come right back to me and say, oh, you need to pay for this now. No. they're going to say, oh, my bundle is better. My company is better because my bundles are all risk protected. And so you, Mr. Self-insured employer, are going to have this guarantee that we're going to cover all the complications up to, say, 25,000, 50,000, or 100,000, or for a whole year or 30 days, or, they can kind of tailor it to that procedure. But it really is helping decrease the cost of healthcare for the largest one that like controls the healthcare for all of their employees, right? So um, it's truly wonderful watching all of it grow. Free Market Medical Association is an association to get involved with. Rosetta Health is also an incredible organization to get involved with because they truly believe in the cost of healthcare has got to get back under control. And so we're involved with all of that. With orthopedics. Orthopedics is crazy. All of these, yeah, orthopedics is another really growing service line for us.
That's really great. That's great. I love it. Well, Suzanne, thank you so much for kind of walking us through what BlisCare can do for not just the doctor, but the patient also. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, how can they contact you directly, and how can they go ahead and sign up for BlisCare?
So BlisCare website is just BlisCare, BlisCare.com. The contact on there goes directly to me, or my email address, Suzanne, just like it's spelled, SUZANNE at BlisCare.com. And
Perfect.
I'm on LinkedIn if they want to find me there.
Awesome. Well, you heard it, surgeons. Get a hold of Suzanne and get yourself covered and get your patients covered. I think it's an incredible addition, and that's why I really wanted you on the show, because I do think that this needs to be in everybody's practice for sure. So, for all of you tuning
That's right.
in, thank you so much for watching the Aesthetic and Wellness Edge. Be sure to tune into the next episode, and we will see you soon.